Hi, I'm Shayna Fletcher, and this is Transparent Tuesday with the Fletchers. So, as you can see, the title of this session is Going from a Party of One to a Party of Five. It was in we're going to say less than a year. It was like 6 months. Now, fast forwarding to 2024, as my husband says, when I called him on that Wednesday evening and he heard my voice and he just was so smitten that he knew I was the one. But no, that's how it went though, for real. He'll tell you the same thing. But we did. I got in contact and then at that time he was going through his divorce. And it was rocky and tricky for him. Thank God that I already went through my divorce because it honestly helped me to give more grace. It helped me to be understanding. It helped me to, you know, when people said I was crazy because of maybe how he was taking something at the time, I understood you I learned in therapy that you grieve a loss, whether it's divorce, death, a friendship, you grieve it. So that was one thing that I understood. So at that time, regardless, I felt as though I was like, I'm me. Anyone knows me, I'll help anybody. Now I do have an exterior that some people find it a little difficult, but I will help anybody. That's just the heart that I have. So he was going through his divorce at that time, and then his when we first met, I believe that was when his father got sick. His father got sick during that time, and that was also stressful for him too. And I'm gonna be honest about it, I was stressed out too because I was like, as a person, I said this is a lot. But we definitely did not foresee the outcome of with his father. We definitely didn't. And that was one thing I remember him mentioning was like, he was going through a divorce. I can't, he wouldn't, he said, he told me exactly, he was like, I'm not going to be able to take it if my dad passed away. I'm just not. And so, I'm praying, Lord, please don't let it happen. But, definitely didn't see it coming. But then when that happened, it was a lot on him. It was a whole lot, you know. And like I said, at that time, I still hadn't met his children. I still didn't meet his children, just me and him, um, getting to know one another, basically trying friends, helping him navigate going through. And so it was after his father passed in the end of after his father passed and then the end of May we became official. So everyone knows that I am divorced as well. I went through a divorce. I believe it was finalized 2022. And I, got my own place, was living my big single life, still attending church, work, traveling for work. I mean, it was just about me. And when you're single and you have nothing to be accountable for but yourself and you don't have to answer to nobody, I don't have to do nothing, that's the best life ever because answer to who? Answer for what? So that was my life before. So then maybe it was maybe like a month later. I- No, no, about around that time, I met his children. Met them wasn't at that time he was having his visitation. They had an agreement that they made, so I was seeing him, and even though I didn't meet his children, he was still kind of, I would say, still kind of leery about it because a lot of times still when he did have his children during his weeks, we wouldn't see much of each other. But when he didn't have children, that's when we would. So I believe for him it was still kind of tricky, and for me, honestly, that was still kind of tricky because it wasn't honestly, let's be for real. He had one child, wasn't like he had two. He had three. So three little ones at that. So, and during that transition of that, I still was sensitive of his children making that transition, from having both parents to, separate houses. They grew up, parents together. So that was tricky as well, trying making sure that I'm sensitive to that. So fast forwarding a little bit, like I believe I mentioned before, they had their visitation, their agreement. And it went from that to children every day. It was a swift change, very swift. So it was kind of like a whirlwind for me. It was like a shock for me, And I remember when it happened, I was like, is this really happening? So, but it was happening, and it was like an instant decision. Either you're all in or you're not, for me. And I had to make that decision for myself, but then I also had to, I would say, prove that to Joy as well. Because first of all, he always asked me, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" I think one time he told me I wasn't sure, just because he didn't think I was sure. So he just kept asking me, "Well, am I sure? Am I sure?" And at that point in time, even what he was going through, it was just like, let's just be real. It wasn't an intentional trust issue, but it was a trust issue, which I understood, because even though the transition was different for the children, it was different for him too. He went from having, their original birth mother. Now you're considering, allowing another woman to step into, possibly being a mother figure to your children. So I understood, even though sometimes it did get irritating, but I did just keep that in the forefront. Like, everybody's transitioning here. Everybody has to have grace for everyone. So I really made sure that I was intentional about putting my words into actions. Instead of saying I'm sure, showing that I'm sure, putting my best foot forward, making myself available. And to me, if I was in those shoes, I would want somebody to go above and beyond, just to show, so I can be comfortable. Because that's just my children. So I just put myself in his shoes, instead of just being like, I don't know, I've seen people be like, they're your kids, I'll do the bare minimum. But for me, if I say I love you and I'm going to be with you, I'm going to be with you and the kids. Everybody come. When it's ring or we agree, it's with the children. And then one thing I did also take into account was that in Joey's previous marriage, he was also a stepfather before. He adored her, just wasn't treated any different than his regular children, So I would expect him to expect that or want that for his children. Like, it's kind of like, you look for yourself in someone. Are you going to love my children like this? Are you going to, it's kind of, he set the bar high for me, and, well, let me be transparent. I got to stop saying, He set the bar high for me. And everyone even knows, like, for me, even with my previous marriage, I had a stepson in that marriage too, where he passed away, and my baby, that's my baby. And so I am familiar with, blended families. And to me, it's just like, they're blended, but the only difference for me is that I just didn't push them out. I didn't go through labor, I didn't carry them. But for me, that is the only difference. Other than that, it's the same. Now I can say, because like I said, from my previous marriage, I had one son. Now I did say that the Lord must, seem fit to give me 100-fold, because listen, it was 3 of them. Now I can say honestly, I did really, I had to examine myself, like, are we really ready for this? Or, because like I said, going from single, everybody thinks singleness is great, until you get a family, because for me, it was just like, I thought the single life and coming and going as I pleased was amazing until I had these three little people introduced to me that were just open and just eager to, to learn, have fun, play, and then you look like this is what I was missing. So in the beginning, it was challenging for me. I'm just be honest, it was challenging, and the challenging part was because I had to get out of my own ways. I'm a single. I'm a only child. Except I have a sister on my dad's side, but I was raised by my mom, and as Joy would tell you that I'm spoiled. I mean, it's a difference between being spoiled to me. Is you have spoiled rotten and you have spoiled. I'm not spoiled rotten, but I am spoiled. So I still have ways that I'm set in. I think the only thing that I'm still set in is I don't share my food. I don't share my food. Nope, don't even look like it. Sometimes if you catch me after, I don't know, maybe it's a come to Jesus moment, I might share it. But actually, my sharing is you can have it. Because I'm not sharing. But I think other than that, like having them and having the kids having joy, it really made me more selfless. It made me more even aware of my own actions, like my own attitude, like my own, just me, So I can say, and I think that's anybody. I'd say for me, I had to ask myself, like, are you really ready for this? Like, are you done with being single? Is this what you want? And I know a few people doubted me. I definitely know, I definitely know that. A few people still to this day, they didn't think I would make it. But I had to realize for me, even though I never pushed out my own children, like my mom is in me when it comes to being a mother. Like it's no way around it. So I didn't realize what I was missing out of life until I got these three little peoples and my husband. Now I can say, Joey did make the transition easy for me for the most part. The only part I would say it was kind of challenging was him kind of, I'm not gonna say taking the back seat. I'm gonna say just being a full-fledged father. And what I'm saying is that because when I met Joy, like even with the kids, when it first became like full time, he had them like 100% of the time. It was like he was like the mom, the dad, the fun uncle, the grandparents, all in one. He was just whatever they needed him to be, he was, to the best of his ability. So it was that was the only hard part for me when it came to him, that he had some adjusting to do too. Like the main thing, I'm gonna tell him, the main issue for him, he wanted to sleep in the bed with all the kids. No. I remember Joe used to sneak Kanan in the bed. I'm trying to figure out, and you know how when no Kanan was in the bed, Joy would try to cover him up with the covers, and Kanan would get hot, and Kanan would yell out, "Damn hot!" That's how I knew. And so that was the only hard part. The only part that made it hard. It was kind of like, I won't say having him. It's not even a boundary, but it's just like, it's okay. Your kids are safe. I believe, to me, it came out of him just want to make sure they're safe, and the only way he felt they were safe is because if he had like his hands on them, like they were just right there, and he was just right. I think that's just a father thing. I don't know. I'm gonna ask him too. Now that I think about it, but that was the only part. It was difficult. Like him and the kids had separation anxiety for a little bit, and and it wasn't. And another part, it was. I'm not gonna say it was hard, but it was hard on him. Even when, like, once he had them full time, and then a visitation schedule was set in place. Listen, when it was time for them to go to their moms, I had to send up some timber. Cause listen, this man was stressed. Nah, he couldn't even enjoy himself. He couldn't even get it. It was overbearing. Sometimes I just wish just let the kids stay home. I don't have to worry about it because then finally he could get some sleep. So I would say that was the only difficult part navigating through that with him. Making sure I had the patience because sometimes it got a little frustrating. It feel like, come on now, like, sir, they're fine. You got Jesus on your side. They protected. They fine. But I wasn't going to tell him that because, at those point in times, you're not trying to hear about the Lord. You worry about your children. So, but, I can say it did. It led me to pray a lot, for him. Because at the same time, I think as women, we forget that men got to heal, have to heal too. Like, that's one thing I can say this process did show me, like, that men, when they hurt different. And us women, we can take a licking and keep on ticking. Man, when a man get a lick, oh, they gonna fall right on out and roll a couple times. And you just have to bear with them for a little bit. But so it taught me that, even though we see men as, men are strong, they gonna hold it down. Men are a lot more sensitive than we are when it comes to pain. And I had to be a lot more sensitive to that and give grace and just walk them through it, work with them through it. Take the good with the bad, take the ups with the downs, and but as I see here, it became more, I can say, I appreciate the journey as I seen him starting to like truly heal. It was just like it wasn't in vain. Some people can go through hurt and they just be the same way. They just want to stay in that rotten place. I just seen him go through the healing process. Just like he came out on the other side. Then it came us getting married. Talking about getting married. I don't think anyone knows our story about getting married. It wasn't, I'm not that regular girl. I need a whole shebang proposal. I'm not that. This man stood in the kitchen while I was cooking one day and said, babe, I got an idea. I was like, what? He was like, how about we get married? And me sitting there like, that sounds like a good idea. And that's actually how it did come up. So we discussed getting married. We did talk to the children. Like I said, we both were aware that it's going to be an adjustment, So we, going fast forward, got married. And then, honey, school time. Woo! Now, that was an adjustment. Schedules, school, and now I can say it was an adjustment for both of us because, first of all, me, I don't like getting up in the morning. I'm just be honest, and then now I'm off of, school and everything. And it was also an adjustment for Joey because he was used to being the one to get school signed up and, get him up in the morning, all that. I had to put my foot down until I'm going somewhere. Because you're not about to take over what I'm going to do. So, and honestly, he didn't fight too much. I think he realized after a couple mornings where sleeping in was great and that it wasn't a burden, but not having to do that, honey, now he stays in his fatherly place and go ahead on and let me do what I need to do. So, but school was an adjustment for us all. And I believe also like with the children because, it's a new school district, new friends and, and everything. But we all worked together and adjusted, Now, moving forward, we're on our third school year and we're adjusted. We're very much well adjusted. School is still mine. It's great, I can say. I would have never thought for me, 3 children, no. I am not allowed, no. But it's just like, I don't know what I would do without him now, So, But like I said, we're on our third school year. I have James' grade being fifth, Rebecca's grade being second, Kanan is finally in kindergarten. You know, and this is going to be a new adjustment for us because now all the kids are going on a school bus at 8 o'clock on the dot. You know, now in case I want to take them to school because I don't feel like getting up. But they're all going to school, and we have created a routine. And one thing that I did learn, and I learned it from my mom, routine is wonderful for children. You know, it's wonderful for us adults too. You know, it sets the tone in the home. You know, it sets the tone even as a family. You know, and that's one thing that I did learn, like routine from the beginning. Now, mind you, now I can't. Well, all this. His sister Natalie was the best for me because when I tell you, it was a lot of things I didn't know, and I had to make 100 million calls and figure it out and try to figure out what I'm supposed to do. I remember one time I called Natalie. I don't even think Joey know about this. I called Natalie because I was stressed out because my house wouldn't stay clean. I was so stressed out. And you know, she told me, she was like, "You got to get it out your head. You got 3 children. You better be happy that at least you can get a section of keep stuff off the floor." You know, so that was the adjustments that I was trying to get used to, like little things as far as finding a balance with, you know, 2 girls, like with their hair, like with the clothes. Finally, it was just because you know, Nuki has 5 children, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, and you have to know. And I just see them even as they operate as a family dynamic. You know, I didn't want to call anyone outside the family, honestly. So I can say she was a big, huge help. Thank you, Nuki. Thank you so much. But now we are a well-blended family. Like I said, you can't tell me anything. The only thing you can tell me is I didn't push them out. We are a blended family. We are a loving family. And, you know, I said we are still adjusting because Jamie's 10, Rebecca is coming to her own, the kids are all coming to their own, they get new vocabulary. I believe we would never stop adjusting, never stop evolving, never stop learning. So, but, you know, we're having fun while doing it. So, yeah, I really love this little life of mine, my little family. And I wouldn't trade them, and you know, never will. But so, this is my Transparent Tuesday. I missed my husband, so our next ones, our others are going to be together. You know, we want to do it like this, you know, so everyone can get to know us individual and have our own transparent moment. I hope you enjoy. If you have any questions, feel free. Hope this helped someone. But other than that, this is me. This is my Transparent Tuesday. And I'll see y'all next time.